Verdict coming down just within the last couple minutes. I sprinted out of the courthouse to bring you this news. On the charge of second-degree murder, the jury found Cory Bigsby guilty. On the charge of concealing a body, the jury found Cory Bigsby guilty. That is guilty on both counts for the murder of his son, Codi Bigsby, the young 3-year-old, 4 at the time that he was reported missing, back in January of 2022. The prosecution told us throughout this case that Codi was in fact murdered months prior, before he was reported missing. In June of 2021 is when the prosecution says that he was killed. Let's walk over here. Nehemiah is the photographer going to be working with me on bringing you this live report. And shortly, we should expect some of the members of this trial, some important members of this trial, to begin leaving the courtroom. And we kind of want to get their reaction to what happened today. We would like to hear from Commonwealth's attorney Anton Bell and his assistant senior Commonwealth's attorney Dylan Arnold, who prosecuted this case. This is a rare no-body case. It is only the 4th no-body case to be prosecuted in Hampton Roads history. All of them, now officially with Cory Bigsby, have ended with guilty verdicts. The jury, made up of 8 women and 4 men, gave their unanimous verdict just a few minutes ago. I understand the jury's going to be walking out, so we don't want to show the jury. Instead, we're going to pan the camera elsewhere, give them space, give them privacy. But in fact, the jury of 12, after a long 7 days, now leaving that courthouse. Janet, if you have any questions, feel free to direct them my way. This, has been a 7-day trial, culminated with closing arguments this morning from the defense, from the prosecution, and then it ended with the guilty verdicts this afternoon. But Janet, what is striking about this case is that there was no physical evidence. It was only circumstantial evidence that the jury was able to convict. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, no body, and at the end of the day, Janet, the jury said that did not matter.
All right, and Dan, it seems like they came up with that decision very quickly. How long exactly did they deliberate?
Yeah, Janet, so they began deliberations at about 11:25 this morning, and then about an hour later at 12:30, they all had a question. They wanted to review 2 pieces of video that was entered into evidence earlier this week. One of those videos was an interrogation between a Hampton Police Division detective and Cory Bigsby a few days after he reported his son missing. Another video was of the first responding officer to the Bigsby home on January 31st, 2022. And in that video, you see Cory Bigsby offer up Codi's pillowcase to use as scent for a tracking dog. Ultimately, the tracking dog K9 handler got up on the stand and testified that they used that pillowcase and were not able to find any scent of Codi. So that was at 12:30 when the jury returned asking to see those 2 pieces of video, and then an hour later they had their verdict. So Janet, that is a long way of answering your question. The answer to your question is under 2 hours that this jury took to deliberate on these charges of murder and concealing a body.
All right, Dan, one other thing I wanted to bring up, yesterday you talked about the aunt testifying, Codi's aunt, and she mentioned that she saw Codi, I believe, in September of 2021, but yet the prosecution was saying that they believed that Codi died in, I guess it was June of 2021. There was that discrepancy there. Right. You then had another witness who came up and said that he saw Codi about 2 days or so before he was reported missing. I know in that moment there may have been some doubt created, but talk about how the prosecution handled that particular point when that came up.
Yeah, ultimately, Janet, it was going to be up to this jury to decide the credibility of each and every witness that they heard from. That included the credibility of Cory Bigsby's sister, Codi's aunt, who you're talking about, and that also included the credibility of the 7-year-old who testified in this case. That would be Codi Bigsby's 7-year-old brother. Ultimately, the jury weighed the credibility of the testimony, and they decided that they chose to believe the testimony of the 7-year-old brother and the testimony of Codi Bigsby's mother, who said that she had not seen Codi Bigsby, had not seen a picture of him, had not heard from him since at least June of 2021. And then you have the brother, the 7-year-old brother, who got up on the stand, and this morning prosecutors said that that was their key witness. It was not the confession letters from jail, and we know there were 4 confession letters from Cory Bigsby in jail. The prosecution said that's not what we're basing our case on. That's just the icing on top. That's the confirmation for our evidence. They said the big moment in the trial for them, for the prosecution, was hearing from that 7-year-old testify that he found his brother dead and last saw his brother dead in bed. But Janet, ultimately, we did hear the aunt's testimony saying that she saw Codi alive at a family gathering in September of 2021, but there was no photo evidence of that. We also heard from a Hampton man who said that he saw Codi alive at a Food Lion just a couple days before his face was plastered all over the news on January 31st, 2022. But again, there was no photo evidence of that. So even though this case was built on circumstantial evidence, ultimately the jury decided to opt for the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses as opposed to the defense's. And Janet, forgive me as I keep looking back. We are waiting for some of the key attorneys to walk out of these doors. We want to hear from Curtis Brown, who is the lead attorney for Cory Bigsby. He's aided by Ken Singleton and Amini Matheny Willard. They have not had a comment for us all week long, so this could be our first chance to hear from Bigsby's attorneys and perhaps how they plan to move forward. Do they have an appeal that they want to make at some point? But their client right now looking up to 45 years in prison. Of course, he will be sentenced at a later date.
Yeah, and Dan, you touched on this when you talked about the 7-year-old little boy who testified. And then, we saw the mother on the stand. We saw the aunt on the stand. And the interesting thing is that the mother and the son, the little boy, they testified for the prosecution and the aunt for the defense. And it just sort of underscores how emotional, and if you need to go, I see you looking, we're prepared to break away there, but
No, you're good. Yeah,
it just
we are. I'm sorry, Janet, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, it just underscores how emotional this whole thing has been from the very beginning. We know how the community just rallied around that little boy, just so concerned about his well-being and just how much people came out and they were searching, the vigils that were held, that fence that was put up in Buckrow where you had all the little stuffed animals and the letters, just extremely heartfelt. And then you see the trial happen and the family members having to testify in that trial. That must have been something to see and hear.
Janet, on that note, this is a woman who has been a Codi supporter from the start, Nancy Strickland.
He got us all. His face, when we seen his face, we fell in love with him. And he became 7x7's child. That's what Codi Bigsby did.
We got justice.
Yeah.
Where's Codi?
Right.
Amanda, y'all been out here for a long time looking for baby.
Oh my God, guys.
Nancy, what are your general emotions right now? You were here every day of this trial. What does it feel like to hear the guilty verdict?
Oh my God, I wanted to get up and scream, but I couldn't. I wanted to get up and scream. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus, because we've wanted this for 26 months, and we finally got it.
Well, what was the turning moment in the case? You heard all the testimony. What was the strongest?
For me, is when the man got up and said he seen Codi in the grocery store.
Nancy, with the money you collected, would you be buying the bench now?
And yes, Mom gives me permission, yes. So, oh God.
The man in the grocery store.
Yes, when the man in the grocery store said he seen Codi that weekend, 2 days before Cory reported him missing. And it was DJ. It was not even Codi. It was DJ, and the man said, "This is him."
What's next for the Where is Codi movement?
Searching, we searching.
You're not giving up on finding him.
I will not give up on Codi Bigsby. I will not do it.
And ma'am, you were in here all week long too. What's your reaction hearing the guilty verdict today?
When the Commonwealth said, with all the evidence, he wrote his own confession. No one forced him. He wasn't crazy. That was guilt. from that child, letting him know you're guilty.
So for you, it was the jail confession letters that.
Jail confessions. Yes.
Yes.
He sealed his fate.
Yes,
No
he
one
did.
could ever describe something like that. No.
All right, we're going to come over here and try to grab some members of the family. We appreciate the members of the community. This is Cory Bigsby's sister. Let's see if she has a comment. She testified on the stand yesterday.
I never lied from the beginning, and I don't lie now. Excuse me.
Tandalia, so you saw
Excuse me.
Codi on September
She
24th.
said, excuse her. Don't put nothing in my face.
Mr. Bennett.
I said, don't put nothing in my face. Don't ask me no questions.
So the woman who we tried to ask questions from there was the sister of Cory Bigsby. She was the one who took the stand the other day, and we're going to go over here and try to grab an attorney. This is Mr. Curtis Brown. He was the lead counsel for Cory Bigsby, and we're going to see if Mr. Brown, can we just get a statement from you on the guilt of your client today?
No, you can't get one from me. You keep putting the news reports like you put them, okay?
Mr. Singleton, would you have any comment today?
I have no comment.
Any next move?
They got what they wanted, so I'm hoping that they're happy and hoping that you all are happy. Okay, you understand? I'm hoping that they're happy. You all presented the case. You all presented the case the way that y'all wanted, as if he was guilty already and everything. So y'all should be satisfied.
Sir, are you going to appeal?
We'll talk about it.
Mr. Brown, do you feel as though you had a fair chance with this case?
No.
You were in there. You were in the court, okay?
Yes.
I called Mr. Bell. I said that everybody, you striking all these black people. You black, I said I'm black.
To do with it. We're talking about a child. We're talking about a 3-year-old.
Quit throwing race
We're
cards.
talking about.
Okay, that is Mr. Curtis Brown. That is the lead attorney for Cory Bigsby, offering no comment on this case, not even saying if they would plan to appeal. Amina, would you have anything to say? Okay. All right, let's go over here. This is Mr. Bell. We're live on the air. If we could just get your reaction.
I'm going to do a press conference. Follow me.
Okay.
And you can do your press conference.
We will do that. Chief Weidman, while we have you, we know that you were not the chief at the time, but you've certainly been following this case very closely.
I'll follow along with Mr. Anton's comments.
Okay. We're going to expect to hear from Chief Weidman and Commonwealth's attorney Anton Bell here at a news conference that we said should be happening very shortly. Janet, as you can see, a lot unfolding out here, but we're trying to speak to as many people as possible. Any other questions you have for us at this time, Janet?
Yeah, Dan, you're doing a wonderful job of getting the reaction, and I'm just really touched by Nancy, the first lady that you spoke to, and that just speaks to all of the emotion that we were talking about earlier. This is a case that has just touched so many people across Hampton Roads. I mean, in my recent memory here, I've been here for a long time, and I can't recall a case that meant so much to so many people. Codi, only 3 years old, I guess at the time of his death. When he was introduced to us, we knew him as that 4-year-old little boy, his picture on billboards. You hear the emotion out there. Obviously, the defense attorney's not ready to talk about this, but Anton Bell getting ready to hold a news conference. Dan, they're talking to you about those confessions that were testified about during the trial, the things that he wrote in that composition book. That obviously had a big impact.
I think you're right. And Janet, if you can hang on with me, we've been told that we are allowed to come in here and speak with Anton right now. So
Okay.
I do want to warn you, we are live, Mr. Bell. But we're going to go ahead and get set up for this news conference. Janet, if you could still hang with me, we will take that live here in just a moment. But any other questions or commentary, go ahead and pass it my way.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm very interested in finding out what Mr. Bell has to say in terms of how this case was handled. Dan, did you hear anything during the trial from the defense about how short their case was? And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe they presented their case in what, about a day and a half? Did anybody find that unusual with only 6 witnesses?
Yeah, Janet, it was just about half a day of testimony we heard from the defense. Not that I have heard, but that is certainly going to be a question we have. And Janet, if I could toss it back to you just for 2 minutes while we get set up, and I'll let you know when we're ready to take this news conference live.
All right, we'll do that. Okay, Dan Kennedy on the job there. I mean, doing exactly what he should do, and we really appreciate that. But yes, we're going to stand by for a few minutes. As you can see, a lot of emotion there at the courthouse there in Hampton, and we've been following this case since the very beginning. It started in January of 2022 when we got word that there was a little boy missing, a little boy named Codi Bigsby, and we began to see his pictures. And at that point, people from all over the area, all over the state, really, and you even had people who came in from out of state who came to Hampton trying to find, there he is, that little boy there. You wonder what's going on in his mind there, and that sort of solemn look that he has on his face. People came to the Buckrow area, that's the general area where he lived, wondering, at first we all hoped that this would end up happily. It did not. At first, the father, Cory Bigsby, was charged with child neglect, but that had nothing to do with Codi. Apparently, that had to do with the kids, his other kids that he has, and he was charged with child neglect. Then later, sometime later, the charges for murder, second-degree murder, came up. Nobody in this case. Codi has never been found. We know that that was a challenge for the prosecution. As Dan has mentioned, it's like the 4th time that there's been a nobody case. There was one very recently in Newport News that happened about a year ago, sometime last year, where a woman was killed by her husband. A lot of people followed that case as well. That happened in Newport News, and here a nobody case. But apparently that did not matter to the jury. The jury only deliberated for a couple of hours, came up with the verdict: 8 women, 4 men guilty on both charges, and they are 1, concealing a body, 2, second-degree murder, and Cory Bigsby faces up to 45 years in prison.